episode number 147 with Phil Hellmuth. Welcome to the Heads Up Poker Podcast. This is Steve Barton, and thank you for tuning in. We have an extra special guest this week, the man, the myth, the legend, 14 bracelets and counting, Phil Hellmuth. Phil, thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
Yes. Phil, we were kind of joking about it just a second ago, but other than your wife, Kathy, your kids, your parents, friends and family, I'm probably your number one fan.
Thank you for that.
Bad joke. I listened to your...
No, not a bad joke. I do. I'm very lucky in that I hear that, a lot where someone says, "Hey, I'm your number one fan." Not that much, but I know what that means. It means someone's, and so I appreciate that actually. So if I don't want to sound like dismissive in any way, because no, I appreciate that. And I think for someone to tell me, "Hey, Phil, I'm your number one fan," it tells me they see through all the bullshit. Yeah. Right. It tells me that you know what? They don't actually believe that I'm a bad guy in any way. And I don't think I think the world has, slowly understood that I'm actually one of the good guys in poker, one of the best guys in poker as far as morality and ethics go. And so, and I'm a family guy and never cheated on my wife. And so that good stuff, needs to come out. And I think when people tell me that, they can see through all that. So thank you.
You're welcome. It's true. After listening to your book, it's titled Poker Brat, Phil Hellmuth's Autobiography. I got to say, you narrate a good book, and you should do more. But you really get into your kind of the backstory. At the beginning of the book, you go into your childhood. You talk about poor academics and how academics was such a a pillar in your family's household, and you weren't very good at it. You had low self-esteem, even turned to shoplifting for a short period of time. Oh, those stories about late actor Chris Farley, those were really good, by the way. But yeah. One way that you kind of came out, and one way that you were able to excel where where your family wasn't, was games. And that's kind of set the blueprint, or set the, maybe set your future for some of the antics at the poker table that I think me and some other people can see through. But in your autobiography, you really go into detail, and you kind of explain why that is and how it came to be, and this is just who you are.
Yeah, you struggle to say, all right, why can't you control yourself better at the tables? You have a lot of money, you have a beautiful house, you have an amazing wife, you've raised a couple of great children. Why is it you still go crazy at the poker table? And, and so in writing the autobiography, you have realizations, right? And so the first 70,000 words, my autobiography is 145,000 words. The first 70,000 words basically gets you up to 1993. And so maybe 50,000 of those words, or 40,000 were, kind of about struggling, growing up. And so, the one thing that I realized, man, I was great at games from day one. And whenever a new game's introduced in the poker world, I have an edge instantly. It's like I see exactly how to play the game. And then after a while, like when we first introduced Chinese poker, I crushed everybody, at open face. And, but only for a month or two or three. And then all of a sudden, guys like, Sean Deeb and Jason Mercier, who played against each other 100 hours a week, made all kinds of great observations together, and then passed me skill-wise. But it took them a while. And so, I'm really good. I think I play probably Monopoly perfect. I play all these games that I grew up playing with my family, hearts, spades. I play all these games close to a perfect level. And, any board game. And right away, it just made sense to me, the strategies.
Okay.
And that's what I had to hang my hat on. I had no self-esteem. 4 younger brothers and sisters, all getting better grades than me, all better at sports than me, the prize things from my dad and my mom, and me, the oldest, and, with a lot of AD&D. really struggling with self-esteem. And so if I didn't win, if I was playing my brother at backgammon and I had him buried and he did double sixes and then double fours to win, and he pulled it off, I would go crazy because what else did I have in my life?
Yeah, that was your thing. That's what you're good at. I learned a neat trick. There wasn't much strategy as far as in the book, but there was one thing that a little golden nugget I picked out, little trick. You say when you win or lose a big pot, you ask yourself these three questions, and you ask yourself, how many chips do I have? What are the blinds? And how do I play optimally from this stack? And I had Greg Raymer on a while ago, and he said something kind of similar. It was just for when you're losing a pot, though. Let's say you've got 70 big blinds, and you get in this big flip, and you lose, and now you have 8. And he says what he does is he imagines that he just had 4 big blinds, and now he's got 8. And then that kind of gets his brain back into it. He's pretending like he doubled up. And this, I think, is a very good blueprint for any tournament player. When you win or lose a big pot, you just ask yourself these 3 questions, and that'll kind of be a system reset and put you on the right path for the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, and I can't always do that, but when I can do that, I'm very powerful because I'm never giving up. And sometimes I'm a little bit too tilted, and it might affect my play for a few minutes, and we've all seen that on television with me. And, when I'm able, that's exactly right. Lose a monster pot, it's a bad beat, it's a flip. And then those 3 questions are really key to getting your mind back in the game. How many chips do I have? How many big blinds is it? So, what's the optimal strategy? And, just kind of resetting, I'd call it.
Yeah. I think you and I are kind of similar in this, as far as like your mindset going into maybe just life in general. You talk about the slant system as you were a kid. And then one story that I heard you tell before, and then I read it again in the book or listened to it because I got the audio version. But you talk about Rose the fortune teller.
Yeah.
Can you tell that story?
Well, Rose Gladden was a world famous. So there was a psychic convention that was held in Madison. Mm-hmm. I mean, psychic convention, I'm sure, is the wrong. Don't hold me to the terminology. Right. This is stuff 40 years ago. But there was kind of a energy and healing and psychic conference in Madison every year. And so what happened is a bunch of world famous people come to this. You've got Uri Geller bending spoons and then some people say he can't and some people say he can, but whatever. I'm neither here nor there about any of that stuff. I don't know. What I do know is Rose Gladden was a world famous psychic, and she came over to the house and I think I was 16 and probably, was probably pestering her and annoying her. She came over for drinks and dinner, home cooked meal with her, I believe it was her husband. And she probably just wanted some peace. She'd probably worked all day. Yeah. I have the feeling I was pestering her too much. And, hey, can you read my palm? My mom was off, wasn't able to protect her because she was off actually cooking the food. Yeah. And so Rose reads my palm after a lot of annoyance. She reads my palm. But the weird thing is she turns blue as she's reading it. And I'm like, what is going on here? And then she tells me that I'm going to be infamous. She used the word infamous, I think, actually, and known throughout the world. And I was like, well, this is just weird. Yeah. And then, it's one thing and then she read my brothers and sisters' palms because they were like, oh, that's cool. I want that. And she didn't predict anything like that for them. So I was like, okay, if she would have said, you're all going to be world famous, there would have been no meaning. Yeah. But she didn't predict that for my brothers and sisters. And so I was like, wow, this is something for me to latch on to. I didn't like the word infamous, and she kind of, when she said it, I remember there was kind of a hesitation whether she wanted to say famous or infamous. So I held on to that. There are a couple moments in your life like that when you're trying to be great at something or just trying to be great where, I had no reason at age 16 to think that I had any shot at being great at anything. Horrible grades, no friends, struggling at everything,
Yeah.
and, and okay, I was good at Monopoly, but who cared?
Yeah.
I was good at these board games, but who
How is that
cared?
going to make me any money?
Right. I was great at video games, always great at video games and pinball because I could see all the angles,
Yeah.
And I once beat the pinball world champion heads up,
Oh, that's cool.
and thought, wow, he isn't even that good, He wouldn't stand a chance. So, I mean, it's so yeah, you take a look at that. And so those moments where someone says you can be great, or in this case, you will be great, you latch onto that. It gives you fuel for a dream. I think a lot of us feel like we can be great at something or hope we can be great at something. And so there was, kind of the fuel I needed for those couple of years to continue believing.
Another thing to that, what I really kind of dove down and focused in on your book is and all my listeners on the podcast know I'm real into positive thinking and trying to visualize things that you do before they happen, write down your goals. And one thing that stuck out to me was the note that your mom put on the mirror. You are what you think, you become what you think becomes reality. As soon as I heard that on the book, I did the same thing, and it's sitting on my bathroom mirror now. I see it every morning and every night.
What's amazing? What's amazing about that, what you just said, is, and I love this, because my agent, Brian Balsball, read the book, and right away he said, hey, I put that on my bathroom mirror for my kids.
Right?
Honoré Cordair, I want to make sure I pronounce, Honoré Cordair, who's kind of the world's biggest, she writes, I think she does books like, Write Like a Boss.
Yeah.
And she's done like 30 books, and she's kind of my book consultant for my next book. I've already written it. It's called Positivity.
Oh,
It's
cool.
going to do extraordinarily well. But she's been advising me, and she's like, Phil, I read that, and I put it in my mirror for her daughter.
That's cool.
And so I've heard several people say to me, Phil, I read your book, and I put that sign on the mirror, both for me and my kids. And it's just very simple. You are what you think, you become what you think becomes reality. 3 lines. And then it's amazing to me, I've probably heard from a dozen people that have put it on their mirror, of people that I know, and I can't imagine, because I don't have access to the hundreds of thousands of people that are reading the book, how many of those people are influenced positively just by Poker Brat. And then Positivity, the book that I've been meaning to write since 2002, it's my How to Achieve Great Things in Life book. That book, that's the one, man. That's the one where I get to help the world out. So I've already written it. I think we're going to come out in January with it. And
cool.
It's amazing white cover. I've had one of the world's best artists help me with the cover. Honoré is terrific. She charges in the neighborhood of $1,500 to $2,500 an hour. But she has pivoted me in the right directions as far as, where to have it published. She's helped me with a world-class editor. She's helped me with a world-class artist. And so I'm really excited to see what this book does. It's going to be #Positivity, all in caps, and I think we might come out January 9th. And so, this message, one of the lessons is simple and basic, and that's just write down your life goals. Yeah. All right, that's a whole chapter. This book's a breeze, man. It's 145,000 words for Poker Brat, 9,200 words for Positivity. 6%. It's a short little thing.
You just
with
nail
8
it
big
down
lessons.
And get right to the gold.
Yes. Like, why waste time? It's just like, and I think it is gold. And I think that, I've been sharing some of these lessons on the Tim Ferriss show, and I think I have one of the most highly rated Tim Ferriss shows ever. And so it's been fun for me. And so, another lesson is write down your yearly goals and tape them to your bathroom mirror.
You see them every day.
Yep, and that's what I've done for years. And people have come up to me, they grab me on the sleeve, and they're like, Phil, I saw you give us positivity speech, and you changed my life. I wrote down my yearly goals, I taped them to my bathroom mirror, you changed my life. So it's 8 tips like that, all simple, all pretty easy, and, stuff that's really helped me do great things.
You know, another little saying you had, I am lucky, good things happen to me. I think that's important just because if you believe that you're lucky, then you have the possibility of being lucky. If you don't believe that you're lucky, well, then it's not even a possibility, you know?
Yeah, I had that written on my mirror for a long time. Great things happen to me every day.
Yeah, that's cool.
And an extraordinary number of great things happen to me, as far as, as far as having the world's most amazing people hang out with me. As far as when I go to an event that's filled with A-listers, they all come to me. It's crazy stuff,
That is cool.
and doesn't make sense. But I think, for some of those guys that are actors or whatever, they think, well, Phil's done something pretty cool here. He's become the world's best poker player, and he has a big personality, and I want to find out a little bit more about him.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I attract a lot of people. I mean, these places where I announce I'm going to be, people come up and they're like, I drove 6 hours to get your autograph and say hello,
Wow.
And I'm like, wow. And they're shaking and they're so happy. And I'm like, man, this is a nice gift. So people do see something in me. And so, it's pretty cool.
That's cool. I want to talk quickly about your, keeping with the same theme, the mindset and the focus. In 1989, your WSOP main event, before you even played this thing, you told everyone that you were going to win. The message that you left on your answering machine at home was that, leave a message for the 1989 World Series of Poker champion after the beep.
That's exactly right.
Right?
That's exactly right. I went out and I put that on my message machine. I told everybody I was going to win it, and then the weird thing was, leading into that event, I was having a hard time getting staked. I mean, I was going to try to get staked, and then fortunately for me, I had some good stuff. You've heard the autobiography. Fortunately, I had some good stuff happen to me right then, where I finished, in the money, so I could buy myself in. So, I had 100% of myself heading into that last hand against Johnny Chan, which was pretty cool.
That's incredible. With the 9s versus 8-7.
We made a save then, but
I was surprised he called with the ace-7 too. You must have been so active that he just thought that you could be doing that with Queen Jack or King Jack or Broadways or I
think that Chan thought that I think he knew he had the worst hand. I think he decided to gamble. I think he decided. I mean, I think maybe I sound cocky, but I'd won a bunch of stuff. I'd played with him a bunch. And he knew, I think he kind of viewed me as, hey, this kid's kind of a hold'em savant, and I want to gamble with him. I don't know what he thought of me other than, hold'em savant. Maybe he whines too much, maybe he's this, maybe he's that. But I'm pretty sure he thought, wow, now I'm playing this hold'em savant, And so I don't know if that's what he thought, but, when you're playing somebody great, you probably want to gamble a little bit more, and maybe he was hoping I had king, queen or something. But I think he knew he was, I think he was trying to gamble.
Maybe that's part of where having just that innate belief kind of rubbed off on the other players. The other one I really liked was your WSOP Europe main bracelet.
Well, I'd already won. Yeah, I'd already won the Hall of Fame championship event, which was like, oh no, I guess I didn't win it, but I'd been down there with Chan, and he'd seen me around a lot. I'd already won the Bicycle Club main event. There were 4 big events back then that you wanted to win: WSOP main, the Bicycle Club main, the Hall of Fame poker main, and then there was one on the East Coast we all wanted to win. But that kind of fluctuated. People wanted to win the Taj Mahal event, or the other one on the East Coast. And then Amarillo Slim also had the Super Bowl of poker, so add that to the list.
Yeah.
4 or 5 major events that really paid a lot of money.
Yeah, so the WSOP Europe main event, bracelet number 13 for you, was a really impressive story to me, and I've listened to it probably 10 times already, going back and listening to that chapter about you and Sergei Baranov.
the weirdest thing that's maybe the weirdest thing that's ever happened to me.
It's one of the strangest, most influential stories I think I've ever heard. And you two were playing open face Chinese or 3-card poker or something before the tournament, and he told you, he said, "You will win the main event, and I will come in second place." And this is
the
before
weirdest
the
thing like
ever started, right?
This was like 9 p.m. the night before, maybe 10. I was annoyed because I'd lost like 18,000 playing open face. It was him, Brandon Cantu, and there was a third guy in there, a Russian guy who was very good at the game. The Russians kind of were masters at this game before we were. I was annoyed that I lost 17, 18,000, and maybe it was 16, whatever the number was. I'd been up 10, 5 or 10, and I was kind of annoyed, and I quit because quitting was the right move. I wanted to focus all my energy on the main event the next day.
Yeah.
And so, then in my annoyed state, he comes up to me, and I didn't even know him from Adam. And so random guy comes up to you, and I get accosted all the time every day.
Yeah.
And, I'm kind of, and he just beat me out of money, and he comes up to me and he says, "You will win. Phil, I need to talk to you." And I was like, oh, man.
What's he want?
I just lost. I just want to go to my room and sleep, So, and then he's like, "You will win the main event. I will finish second." And I thought, that's the most outrageous statement I've ever heard. Because there's going to be 500 players. I mean, so 500 to 1 times 500 to 1 is already, what is that? It's a big number.
Yeah, well, I did the math here, actually. I talked to my math buddies and made sure I was doing it right. And I said, okay, there's 420 entrants. Is it 1 over 420 times 1 over 419? And they confirmed it was, which comes out to 1 out of 175,980 times this should happen.
But assuming that he's a complete unknown, has never done anything, you have to double his number.
Right.
And you could probably knock my number off, my number lower. But 1 in 175,000. Is that what you said?
That's what it came out to. They said, let's say that Phil is better at skill, which obviously you are, and let's say Baronoff is 2. Maybe we could knock that down to 1 out of 300 by 1 out of 300, but you're still 1 out of 90,000 times. I guess my point is I think that there's something to telling people that you're going to do something before you do it. And
I mean, he says this, and I'm just like, I had zero belief in that. I just thought, well, who is this guy that's stuck? You have to talk to me to tell me what? That you're going to finish second, I'm going to finish first? Oh, at least there was some positivity. At least he had me in first.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, this is the weirdest shit ever, And then, so I'm like, whatever. And so I just kind of blew him off and acknowledged him and shook his hand. Yeah. And just kind of like got out of there as fast as I could, while being as polite as I could, even though I was annoyed.
Yeah.
And so, and then the next day, so I pop in, and it was like maybe the third or fourth hand, someone raised, I re-raised, and they made a big re-raise, and I'm like, something's wrong with their hand. And all I had was 8s, I think. So I called, and it came King 8-9 or King 7-8. I think King 8-9. And he bet big, and I said, all right, I really believe he has nothing. I'm just going to call 3 on the turn. And now all the money went in, and he had turned a set of 3s. I had a set of 8s. So I got a double up, like I entered 5-6 hours late, got a double up immediately. And the weird thing was, that was the last time I was all in. I was all in with a guy that had 1 out.
Wow.
Fortunately, the 3 didn't hit. And from there, I played a fabulous style, but Sergey found me again, the end of day 1. And he's like, we're going to do this. And I still thought he's crazy.
Yeah.
Only 20, 30% of the field's gone then because the structure's so good,
Yeah.
And the end of day 2,
left.
the end of day 2, somehow we're up in the chip counts, and he says it again, and I was like, whatever. But now he's coming up to me 4 or 5. Now at least I know him, and at least we're smiling.
Yeah.
And day 3 he comes up, and he's like second in chips or something, and I'm way up there in chips. And he's telling me this, and I'm like, wow. So now I'm smiling and laughing with him because there's a lot of positivity. I might as well accept this, because you never know. And then all of a sudden, it's just that you couldn't make this up, man.
Yeah.
And, and then all of a sudden it's day 5 or whatever, and we're in the top 3 in chips. And all of a sudden we're at the final table together, and I thought that's freaky enough. And then we're both chip leaders.
Yeah.
And then there's 4 of us slapped, and now I'm a believer. You know, now I'm a believer. I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, it's coming to him and I. You know, and then somehow we ended up heads up, and I've never been less worried about finishing first. Now I'm super concerned. It's a big title, man. I mean, you got the World Series of Poker Europe main event,
Yeah.
and it's live on global television, globally, and I'm just like, and this is one of the finest performances of my life. I'm playing 48% of the hands. No one's ever played more than like 23 or 24% of the hands before. I'm playing like a lunatic and just trusting my reads at every turn.
I watched most of that final table, everything I could find off of YouTube, and it was impressive because you were making calls with like 10 deuce offsuit out of
the 10 deuce is the exact hand I was thinking of. Yeah, Sergey raised, I called, or somebody raised, Sergey called, I called, and it came deuce 6-7, and everybody checked, and so I fired on the turn, and Sergey check raised me, and I called, and a blank on the river, and he bet big, and I snapped the money in there with bottom pair.
Yes.
He said, "You're good," and he flipped up 10-8 offsuit, and he started whining about me playing 10 deuce. Blah 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 blah. How could you? But what are you doing? Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, "This is sweet. I'm just playing every hand because I know when you have it, and I know when you don't. So I'll just win the tournament faster by playing every hand."
Yes.
Because I have perfect reads for now.
Yeah,
and
you were in the zone. I mean, you could tell, like, once it got down to four-handed, your body language changed, and all of a sudden now you realize that I am going to win this thing. And the best part about it is Sergey believes he's going to come in second, so I don't have any competition. As long as I don't get to coolered here, I'm good.
And I'm just re-raising these guys with nothing all day long, and then finally I have nines in the big blind, four-handed, and the Italian guy raises, and I'm like, he has it, he has it, he has it, he has it. My instincts are going crazy. And so, I decide to just call with the nines. Yeah. And somehow the guy had tens. It came king 10 deuce. I let out a little bit, and then he raised me, and I folded right away. And then I flipped up the nines, and I said, Sergey, I might have won. I might have busted him if I moved all in here before the flop. He's like, you would have, and all this BS. I found out later the guy had tens. And so I trusted my instincts again in a spot where everybody else would have moved in with a massive chip lead against a short stack. And no, I waited, and so because it just didn't seem right. And so it was pure instincts that got me down there. And yeah, when we got heads up, I had zero worries. But, Sergey had been buttering me up like, oh, we'll make a deal. 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 And, and I said, listen, I've never made it, a financial save. I said, I've never made a deal for a trophy in my life. If I did that one time in my life, everybody would question every bracelet. I've never done that. I play it out. But we can make a save. And he was very happy to make a save. I think instead of receiving the full 1.2 million, he got 100,000. We made a save, I think at 2-1 or whatever the chip ratio was.
Yeah.
And so, but I was that close. I had 100% of myself heading in.
Well, that's
to the
the
heads
least
up
you
match.
could do for a guy that, by some act of God, willed the two of you there.
Exactly. I was like,
right.
He wants to make a save, and I don't think making a save is a bad thing. We're still playing for most of the money, but yeah, we made a smaller save, and I was happy with it. I wish I would have made a save in LA when I got heads up with Art in August. I mean, I didn't realize how much money we were playing for.
Yeah.
It was 360 and like 650. We played for 290,000. We were exactly even in chips.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool.
That hurt. I like you always make saves. A lot of times throughout poker history, it was always 40%, 20%, and 10% for first, second, and third. All the money in the top three. So when you got down there, you'd always make a save because it just made sense because there's some luck involved in the final three spots. And so, yeah, I didn't save with Art, and I wish we would have just saved 100K. At least that would have cushioned my second place a little bit. I would have got 460 instead of 360, but whatever.
Yeah. It, you also wrote in and I think this just kind of goes into how you're, always aim high. Go for what you think is possible, and then just add a little bit more. And you stated that it's your goal and your desire and your belief that you're going to get a total of 24 bracelets. You're more than halfway there.
That number came to me in 1993 after I won 3. And I'm like,
3 in
Phil,
1 year and 2 in 1 day.
yeah, that's exactly right. That number came to me, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to win 24 bracelets. It's just like, I just decided, like, it was like, I don't know. Sometimes I don't want to, they sound ridiculous if you say, oh, I had a vision or I can see the future or whatever. But for whatever reasons, 24 just popped into my brain all that year of 1993. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to win 24 bracelets, and I don't know if anybody will ever catch me, and then when I heard Ivy say he's going to win 30 bracelets, I had to decide, all right, I want to get to 24, but I'm not going to stop, when I hit 24. I might as well win 30 because, I really want to be the greatest poker player of all time. And there's not that many ways to measure it. Yeah. People are like, oh, well, this guy's great at cash games. Well, or online poker. Well, a lot of cash games is choosing your opponents. Yeah. A lot of cash games is these guys will get short on money and they'll have to get staked or they'll borrow money. And so does that make them a great poker player because they're great at borrowing? Does that make them a great poker player because they're great at schmoozing?
Yeah. Yeah. But bracelets.
So, the bracelets you can't buy. You just have to fucking play.
You got to win it. Yeah. Phil, I think you can get 32.
Well, I'm certainly going for it, and I was a little bit, I'm battling now a little bit more fatigue. In fact, I'm going to my sleep doctor this moment.
Oh, okay.
I'm driving in right now, and trying to figure out. I've had sleep apnea, and so I sleep with a machine for 10 years. I haven't missed a night. That's 365 days, 366 on a leap year.
And everything?
Oh yeah. I haven't missed a night.
Okay.
Because it's just miserable sleeping without it.
Okay.
And so, I have to figure out the fatigue thing to keep myself on pace. Right?
What?
People have been given in this life, sometimes we're given great skills and sometimes we're given great gifts, but also sometimes things that we have to fight out and deal with. Everybody's given great strengths and weaknesses, and it's a matter of, so I need to figure out, the sleep thing. I'm confident that I will. I'm just going to take naps in my car.
Yeah.
Have
you ever tried the chili pad? Tim Ferriss talks about it.
No.
It is amazing. It's not cheap. I bought one for the size of a single bed is I think it's $450 or $500. That's what I got. I have a king bed, but I just put it on my side. They have king beds where you can have dual ones on either side. Queen, twin, double, whatever size your bed. Anyways, what it does, you fill this thing up with water. And it's basically like this air conditioning tubes that run water underneath where you sleep, and you can adjust it for exactly what temperature you want.
Oh my God!
Yes, it's amazing.
Can you text this to me? Text me the number.
I can
text
do
me
that.
What this is called.
Yes,
because it's exactly what I've been battling. I just got mad at my wife the other day. I'm like, honey, well, how is it that when I had our house remodeled, I told the woman who did it, and she was amazing at remodeling. I said, I want the super black curtains.
Yeah.
That's my number one.
Yes.
I want the super black curtains, and one other thing I want, and that's super black curtains, and I want the temperature to be perfect. And we have never gotten those super black curtains. And I'm just like, honey, how did we let this slip?
Yeah.
How do we not have these super black curtains? And so just recently, at the beginning of the year, my wife I said, honey, I can't take this anymore. I asked her 12 years ago for this, 14 years ago. And so my wife hand did it. And it's like a cave now. It's so beautiful. And and she's like, oh my God, I sleep so much better. I'm like, honey, assume we have unlimited resources. Let's take care of this. But the other thing is temperature. Yes. And I've been struggling with temperature to this day. Wow, it's amazing. That's a nice gift you gave me there. I'm going to have to use that.
It's changed my life when it comes to sleep. I normally needed about 8 to 7 hours of sleep a night. Now with this chili pad, I'm good on 6. You sleep faster. It cools your body temperature down, and you're like a board.
Well,
you're just dead.
My problem, it gets too hot at night, and then it gets too cold, too hot or too cold, and you're alternating. So lately it's been a little bit too cold. And unless you have the perfect mix of clothing, and even if you have that, I live in California and the sun hits the windows. Yeah. We just haven't been able to. I've looked into Nest and all these things. I can't get people to call me back. It's very frustrating.
This will solve that.
Wow.
Yes.
What a great idea.
They'll deliver it to your door. I mean, it comes in Amazon or eBay or whatever you buy it on. Or I just bought it off their website.
Okay, we wasted 5 minutes talking about this, but it should help other people hearing this.
Oh, it should. Yeah, I've talked about it on
And
the
that's
podcast
why,
before.
and
Guys have
that's why I
texted me.
talk also about, having sleep apnea, because a lot of people have it.
Yeah.
And, it should be diagnosed, and most people have undiagnosed sleep apnea.
Yeah.
It's very sad. I mean, you have this huge section of society that snores, and if you snore, you have sleep apnea. Just a fact. And
Really?
so it's over 20% of the population has sleep apnea, and no one ever. It's as simple as going to a sleep clinic. You could call a sleep clinic tonight, and you could just show up. It's that simple, folks at home. You call the sleep clinic; they'll let you in tonight. You might have to go to bed a little bit earlier than you normally would, but that's it. And so, I'm a proponent of having a machine. The machine has added years to my life because sleep apnea is causal for diabetes and heart disease.
Yeah.
So I'm spreading more positivity by spreading the word about sleep apnea.
There you go. And the chili pad.
Yeah, and that. That's
yes. Right on. Let's see. I wrote down a couple other things here. You got your poker pyramid and the winning pyramid. I really like the winning pyramid. You say it contains the building blocks of what it takes to achieve world-class success in poker. At the bottom of the pyramid, you've got casino games, sports betting, drugs, and alcohol in excess. So these are basically things that we want, are leaks, and we want to eliminate them.
Correct.
And then the next step up, you've got exercise, eating healthfully, and proper rest, which we've talked about for the last 5 minutes. And that I've noticed a big difference when with proper rest, and especially exercise and eating right. I make a smoothie before I go in for the tournament. I have regular breaks where I have I calculate how many calories I'm going to be intaking, how long it's going to take for my body to digest that and ready for the next meal. So I'm not hungry in the middle of a 2-hour window when you're just stuck at the table. The other one too is emotional control and discipline. And then what's interesting is at the top you have money management.
Oh yeah.
What and you mentioned in your book, you say that money management is probably more important than skill at the table.
Yes, for sure. That's a very key thing that it's kind of obvious actually. Most people don't see it or understand it, but it's kind of obvious. I mean, I've watched great poker players, some of the greatest tournament players, they're broke. So they're always being staked.
Yeah.
And so when great games come along, they're on the sidelines.
Yeah.
And so in order to manage your money right for those right occasions, where you can just, when that great game comes along, if you have 100,000 in cash, and let's say we're back in the day where a great game like that might be a 5K buy-in or 10K buy-in, you have 100K in cash, and you can call somebody up and say, I'm willing to risk 20, which is probably too much, but it's a great occasion. And your partner or whatever, your friend says, I'll take 20. Now you're playing in that game,
Yeah.
versus, being on the sidelines. And more importantly than that, as someone who's had, a wife and kids, I got married in 1990. Mm-hmm. And so I had to provide for, and I was also, giving money to my brothers and sisters for law school and helping them out. I felt like I was a big tree that needed a lot of water, and so I felt good about winning. But that's another line of thinking. But managing your money is key, because paying bills, almost everybody listening to your podcast understands the stress of paying bills on time.
Yeah.
And so if you somehow manage your money and you can pay your bills on time, your life is so much easier. If you're worried about getting kicked out of your apartment, that's a huge stress.
Yeah.
If you're worried about paying your car bill or whatever, or your credit card, those are huge stresses. And then someone's going to start calling you, right?
Yeah.
And so right away, I just thought, wow, easy life if I just pay my bills on time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so money management is more important than being great at poker. Absolutely believe that.
Yeah. Just quick to wrap up, your life goals. This is just kind of a story I think you might like. Is after I listened to that chapter, I wrote down my life goals. I'm looking at them right now, and of the top 4, number 2, I have a plane. I'm a pilot. I've got a little Cessna, and I wrote down, fly my plane to poker tournaments all around the world. And within 4 days, my buddy called me and he said, hey, there's a WSOP ring event going on up in Lake Tahoe. You should come. And I looked at my calendar and I had the next few days off and I thought, what the hell? Why not? So I jumped in my plane. I went up there, flew and played the tournaments, bageled everyone, didn't have any luck there. But it was ironic that 4 days after writing down these life goals, I could already start to check one of them off the list. So there's a lot of power in writing down your goals like that. And
so much power. And, the story behind, the story about how I came to understand to write down life goals is one of my favorite chapters in the book, where I can see the light. Yeah. The day that I wrote down the winning pyramid, the day that I wrote down my life goals, the day that I wrote down so many of these tips and techniques that I'm sharing in the book Positivity, and just huge for me,
Right on.
And so, you have to write it down, because when you write it down, it can happen.
Yeah, it makes it possible.
That's the wrong terminology. When you write it down, you're paying attention to it. And, and that's why I have people do it. They write down their goals and put them on the bathroom mirror. I'm glad you did that. I'm glad you took that tip and technique from me, at least the life goals one. Yeah. Next one, take your yearly goals, 2018, and write down whatever the goals are and put them on your bathroom mirror. You'll see them every day. Yeah. And then so right away there's a compass when you get up in the morning. Most people don't have a compass. They don't know where they're going. And all of a sudden they have that to look at. So the book Positivity is just going to help millions of people. And I'm excited. But anyway, I think we better wrap up here. I have to head over to my sleep doctor.
Okay. Alrighty, Phil, thank you for coming on. You guys check out his book. There'll be a link in the show notes. And go to philhellmuth.com for all things Phil.
That's right, philhellmuth.com. I'm really looking forward. I don't know when your podcast comes out, but I'm really looking forward to the Positivity book coming out. And one of these days, in the next month, I'm going to tweet out what the cover looks like. It's beautiful.
Okay, cool.
And anyway, okay, great. Have a good one.
Awesome. Thank you, Phil. We can have you on when Positivity comes out. And
if you want to buy Poker Brat, go to pokerbrat.com or philhellmuth.com. Okay.
Okay. Thank you for tuning in. Here is your weekly motivational speech.
Warren Buffett once said, "The more you learn, the more you earn." That is so true.
Look at successful people like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Oprah, Mark Cuban, and any other highly successful human. They are successful because they use their time right. They are successful because they are lifetime learners. They commit to learning new things every single day. Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest humans on the planet, is famous for reading more than 5 hours every day. Bill Gates reads one book per week. Mark Cuban, 3 hours a day. Oprah, well, she's just obsessed with books. Notice a common theme here? Successful people never stop learning.
Think about this. You have $86,400 to spend every single day. But when the day is over, the money disappears. You can't get it back. When you try to spend all of the money before they disappear, when you try to use it wisely, use it as best you could. The sad part is, we only have 86,400 seconds a day, and most people take this time for granted. Most people let this time disappear without a second thought. We never get this time back. We must use it wisely. We must be productive. We must use our time to do things we enjoy, or use it to set up our life so we can spend our future doing more things we want to do. Instead of wasting your time on meaningless things, use it to learn new things.
The time you spend playing video games or partying with your friends will never come back. Once you use that time, it's gone forever. Use your time wisely. Read books. Study hard and learn as much as you can. Most people give up on their dreams because it gets too hard. A lot of students stop chasing their dreams because of one failed test. Matter of fact, most students don't even try their best when they take the test because in their mind, they have already failed the test. They stop believing in themselves, and once the belief is killed, the dream is killed. If you have a dream, You must do everything to make it into reality. It doesn't matter how many times you fail a test. Never stop believing in yourself. Life itself is a test. Sometimes you will fail, but the only way you can be a failure is if you stop trying.